Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Paul Voss. He is a father of eight, author, and also an advocate for families navigating autism. So we learn from him about practical strategies for sleep regulation and maintaining family unity, the hardest moments no one warns you about, and how struggles can rebuild, not break a family. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Paul. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit. A lot of families across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about parenting, autism, as well as family resilience. In this backdrop, we'll have a conversation. But before that, let's learn a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Sure. I'm a father of eight. I live in Connecticut with my wife and eight children, um, five girls, three boys, and my my most recent child was diagnosed with autism about 3 years ago. And I didn't know a lot about autism prior. I knew a little bit, but it really sent me, on a journey to figure out. At first it was kind of what happened, and once I got past that, I stopped worrying about really what caused it, and focused on what could help her. Early on, researching as a parent, it's overwhelming and frustrating. I think there's a lot of information out there. I would say sometimes it's hard to find helpful information. So over the past 2 years, I've been working on this book that came out in November, where I really wanted to share like what helped, what we knew did had immediate impacts, versus just theory. There were two reasons I really wrote the book. One was to give parents really practical things that helped us, and the other thing I wanted to stress was that while autism is really hard for families, it causes a lot of issues in the family, a lot of stress for parents. There were benefits we saw, as we started to try to help our daughter heal and improve her symptoms.
Absolutely, absolutely. Autism almost is a very common word, especially people understand it in their own way. How would you
Yes.
want people to understand this word in 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 whichever ways people will see this particular episode and whichever place it is? I want your understanding of this word. Does it, I don't know much about it,
Mhm.
does it mean same sort of symptoms? Does it mean, help us understand from that point, or is it different with every case?
Yes, and I was similar. I didn't know a lot about it. They use the term spectrum, and I think that's a great way to describe it because every child is different that's diagnosed with autism. There are some similarities, especially you know they had levels that they classify. My daughter was diagnosed level 3. So there's some commonalities you can see. Lack of sleep is a common one. Um, Non-speaking, nonverbal is it could be a common one. Not making eye contact, aggression could be another similar one. But again, it's still a spectrum, and every kid is different. So you have to kind of learn about autism first, and then you have to see what is unique to your child and kind of work from there. But it's very hard, and I will say any parent that's dealing with it early on, it's very frustrating just trying to figure out what's going on and how do I help my child.
Absolutely. So, how did you get started? Means, as soon as you started noticing that your child uh, has some, is behaving differently than other children, how did you navigate your way from there?
Yeah, and it was a slow process for us. So we noticed a speech delay. She actually had a few words, and we started noticing sleep issues, and it kind of built up over time. But the biggest thing was had words, kind of lost them, and then her sleep pattern just got totally disrupted. So waking up every 2 hours, wanting to go eat at midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., not going back to sleep. So we actually started with speech therapy, and kind of the first speech therapy session, the specialist had mentioned, "Hey, have you ever had her checked for autism?" And we hadn't. We knew something was wrong, but I think hearing those words from the speech specialist kind of shocked us, and really, we kind of knew then, okay, we need to go get her tested for autism. But the big thing was really the sleep disruption, and then losing the words, and then we started to notice more aggression, um, you know, um, getting frustrated very easily with things, and then we got her tested, and I think we were kind of both wondering, what's the test going to reveal. My thought was I was hoping that it would be autism, because if it wasn't, then I wouldn't know what was going on, because all the signs she had were kind of leading up to autism. And um, I did have a sense prior, but we had to get the test to confirm. So once we got the test and the positive results, we just started researching. And like I said, there's so much information out there. I would say not all of it's helpful, especially with social media. There's a lot of people that kind of sell solutions, and I think they give false hope to people. Any parent that's dealt with it, there's not a magic spray that's going to cure autism, and so navigating that part was really hard too. So we just did a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of podcasts, just to figure out, okay, what are strategies that could help the issues we're dealing with, and really help our daughter.
Absolutely. So, how were you able to help her when it does not have cure?
Mhm.
And if I understand, correct me at any place I am incorrect. So, if it does not have any sort of a cure or whatever it is, how do you actually help someone with going through that?
Yeah, and our goal is to help and really cure our daughter, but like you said, there's not like a documented cure for everybody for autism. So what we started looking at really, well, what are the symptoms, and how do we help her get better where she is right now? And it is well documented. If you're not sleeping, you're not going to be healthy. It's really hard to function without sleep. So that was really one of the first things we wanted to help her with. And I remember hearing about a concept called earthing or grounding. And when I first heard of it, I'm like, there's no way this works or is real. And I just started researching more about it. And I'm like, you know what? We have to try it. So I'll never forget, we bought a grounding mattress pad cover and put it on her bed. The first night she slept 6 hours, and I was shocked, because it did work. It didn't fix everything with sleep, but it let her get 6 hours of sleep straight a night, and that continued. It wasn't a one-time thing, and so it was really addressing sleep first, so we could then, during the day, she wouldn't be tired or upset. And then it was just a series of research and trying different things. The other big thing we saw an immediate improvement was she wouldn't walk on her own. So if she was outside or in a grocery store, any type of event outside, she would want to be carried. And we added in CBD oil spray. And again, we saw an instant change right away. She started walking on her own. So those were kind of the two big things, but it took us a long time to get there. I also had to get over some preconceived notions I had about CBD oil. We actually had a specialist mention it at first, and I was just kind of thinking, I'm like, I don't know if that's really appropriate to give a child. Like, I I had to unlearn a lot of things and realize that there's a lot of natural remedies that can really help us and help our child.
Absolutely, Paul. So you talk about, raising 8 kids when one needs everything. Help us understand how did it impact, how did it actually work on the ground this way? How did you work your way out of this? How did others look at it? Other children look at it? Did they, what did they have to say? How did they cope with this? How did they contribute to the family in their own way?
Yeah, and it was really hard at first, right? Because she wasn't sleeping. As a result, my wife and I were not sleeping. So then you again that kind of snowballs, into your day where you're tired, frustrated. And I think at first it was hard for the other kids to understand because like my wife and I, they had heard of autism. They didn't really know like what it actually means to live with it and deal with it every day. So it was a balance, right? Because she was getting a lot more focus and attention. You have to just be strategic about spending time with them and making them a part of it, because that way they can kind of feel like they're helping. But it really was about just trying to spend more time with them, give them attention when you can, not letting it impact things they want to do. So if they want to go somewhere, just making sure you can find a way to squeeze that in and get them to where they want to go. But there have been so many benefits for them as well. We made a lot of health changes, so we actually went gluten free, dairy free as a family, and that benefited our whole family. And I'll tell you, like I've seen my kids grow. I think they've become more caring and understanding, um, not only about autism, but for anyone with special needs. And it's really been cool to see them just love her and be protective of her as well. So but yeah, it's not easy. Even if you have one other child, it's really hard because you just focus your attention so much to help your child. You just have to find time to give to the other children, and it's hard. So pushing through it. It's still not fully balanced because she still is non-speaking, nonverbal. She's still not potty trained. She's 5.5, so we're still spending a lot more time with her, but incorporating them into everything we do has helped a lot.
Absolutely. Even at the cost of repeating few things, I want to understand when you say autism didn't break our family, it rebuilt it.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the things I really like to talk about is my oldest son was diagnosed with ADHD, and this was prior to my daughter being born or being diagnosed with autism. And we went the route of going to the doctor. We took the recommendation and put him on Adderall. And one of the things that started after putting him on Adderall, he started talking about suicide, and that was scary for my wife and I. I'll never forget. It was a Saturday. We reached out to the pediatrician. We had a meeting with her on the Saturday, and she said take him off it immediately. And so pulled him off it. I started researching the side effects of it and was surprised to see that that is a side effect. That, suicidal thoughts are suicide. And at that time, we kind of paused that treatment, the medical route, and said, okay, this could have been a really bad situation. Let's try to figure something else out here. And we never really figured it out until um, my daughter came along and was diagnosed. When we changed our family's diet, we saw immediate improvements in him as well. So he stopped going on his IEP. So he was on a plan at school. He no longer needed it, and he's an honor student now. And so one of the good things that came out of this was it did help. We saw firsthand it help one of my other children really get over a struggle they had with ADHD, and they're succeeding now. The other thing is it really just brought our family closer together. We enjoy family time a lot more now. I think we don't take things for granted as much, and we just enjoy the smaller things in life. You have a much more appreciation for things that you never had an appreciation before because you realize that some things are really hard for other people that you kind of think are easy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Paul, tell us about the book. How did the idea of the book come? When did it come to you?
Yeah, it came about 2 years ago. So I started writing it kind of, I say in my free time, but with 8 kids, you don't have a lot of free time. But I would start writing it at night, and there was always like this block on finishing it. And part of the reason there was a block on it, I'm me and my family are spiritual. I do pray a lot. And, I would always ask, like, why my daughter's name is May. Why May? Why May? Why May? And I'll never forget, I got an answer one time, but it was only a partial answer. So, I was just praying over one night and I heard um, basically that you would have died without her coming into your life, and but nothing else. So I started going down the route of like, oh, would I have killed myself? My background is my mom had a history of mental illness, attempted suicide multiple times. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and this stuff starts swirling in your head, like, oh, am I going to be diagnosed with schizophrenia at some point? Like, what is this? And about a year later, just continuing to pray, I heard, no, it wasn't suicide. It was just your health would have killed you. And so once I kind of got that answer, I was like, okay, now I need to finish this, because I just didn't want to put a book out without having kind of an answer there. Um, and really the main reason when I started writing it was like, okay, I want to help parents. I want to give, what are the things we did where we saw an immediate improvement, not a theory, not like this may have helped, but we did this and then we saw this improvement. So there were a few things that really we did do and saw immediate improvement. Like I said, grounding, CBD oil, removing screens, so taking away the TV. We saw an immediate drop in frustration levels, changing her diet. And then the other thing, though, as I started writing it, I was like, wow, not only do I want to share what helped others, I want to let parents understand that, like, while this is awful and I wouldn't wish it on another parent, there have been benefits that have come out of it. So if there's a parent that's kind of new to this, they can see that, okay, there's going to be good things that come out of this as well for both you and your family. The other thing that I hope helps shed a light is, I think friends and family members don't always understand what it's like for the family that's going through it. So if I can shed a light on that and give them the more understanding of what maybe their friends or their family members are dealing with, I think it can help them be more understanding about just what life looks like day to day.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so much to learn about your journey, also about autism, and also from your book, Autism Sucks, Finding Hope in the Chaos. What's the best way for people to connect with you, Paul?
Yeah, I am on Instagram, Paul V and then 055, so Voss, but just spelled with numbers. And then my book is available on Amazon, both as paperback and a Kindle version. I do have my contact information in there as well. I would love for parents to reach out, share ideas, talk about it, because there's just a lot of information out there, and it's sometimes hard to navigate through what will help me or my family.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.